All right. Good evening. I hope is all is well with everyone. All right. Just give me a second. You know, um, I'm amazed at uh, the lengths that people will go to be someone else. Confirmation here to embody other people's energy. Hold on. I'm amazed. I'm simply uh, I'm amazed the lengths that people will go to try to be someone else as opposed to being themselves. It's amazing. It's disheartening. Okay. Not only to try to be someone else, but in the midst of that, I'm hearing deem that other person that they're trying to be like or to be unnecessary, to deem them unnecessary, but striving to be like them as opposed to themselves. Okay, I just saw some things that I'm not going to. This is not what I got on here about, but I just saw it and I'm like, wow, this person went to these lengths to embody the energy of someone else, to be someone else. It's amazing. But I wanted to get on real quick because Brianna Joe Bellamy has accused me and this other young woman here, Urban Alchemistic, of being paid by a Mexican cartel. Right? Y'all saw my videos on it, but I was interested, so I looked these people up. I had never heard of them before. At first, I didn't know what she said, and then I heard her sing Losados, so I thought it was spelled Losados, Losados. And I said to myself, I said, now I wonder why she picked that criminal organization. How many, possibly Mexican cartels are there? Now, let me look up something real quick. How many are there, and why did she choose that one? Okay. Because you say Mexican, I'm like, well, I went to Mexico once. I think I was probably about 9 or 10 years old. Went to California. No, maybe I was a little bit older. I think I was more like about 12, 13. Went to California. We went to Walt Disney Land is in California. And since we were there, we went across the border to Mexico. And it was so long ago. We didn't go too far into Mexico, but we went across the border to Mexico. These were my babysitters. They were sisters, and they used to babysit me and my sibling. Got me when I was an infant, which means he was probably about two and a half. They were teenagers. So the lady who raised me, she worked with their mother. They were nurses at Huron Road Hospital in East Cleveland, which is no longer there. Let me just say this real quick. I did a live video maybe about 3 days ago on the sculptures here that are called the Guardians of Transportation. And it was about an hour, maybe, and 40 some odd minutes long. Well, the live stream went through the whole way, but then when I got off, they cut it down to like 7 minutes and 45 seconds. Okay, so if you go and you click and it's like there's nothing there. Okay, it was cut down to 7 minutes 45 seconds. I didn't get upset about it, whatever. I might have said some things that didn't need to be said, or maybe they didn't want to be said or shared. Okay, whoever they may be, or possibly it was a glitch, one or the other. Okay, so I might do that video again, just on the Guardians of Transportation. Um, I mentioned East Cleveland just now, and here on Road Hospital, and I want to do a video on East Cleveland, the happenings, like what happened, what it was to where it is now, to what happened. Okay, I'm not gonna do a whole lot of research on it, but I will do some research. But I mean, some of the obvious is what happened there. Okay, but anyway, so these women who are our babysitters, they were sisters, like I said. They got us when they were teenagers, in terms of babysitting us as our babysitters, and they became family. Their mother became, they called their mother mama. We called her mama. They called their daddy daddy. We called her daddy. Because it was like they were more like our big sisters. And we not only did we were they our babysitters, but we became more like family. Okay, I mentioned at one point the lady who raised me. She wasn't really big on holidays or anything like that, but they were. They were really into that. So like Christmas, we spent our Christmases there with them. Whereas the lady who raised me, she would work. Okay, definitely Christmas. Thanksgiving, the lady who raised me, she was more open to Thanksgiving, but she just really wasn't big on holidays, period. But we got huge, huge Christmases with them. They had two Christmas trees, living room, the den. We decorate the Christmas trees, Christmas tree, all of that fun stuff. Okay, and they took us everywhere. You know, they had me on a plane. First time I got on a plane is that I can remember. Okay, with them that I can remember. I was like 3 years old. We went to Milwaukee because one of the sisters, she was in college at that point, and she was in college in Milwaukee, and they had family. Yeah, she was in college in Milwaukee. They had family in Milwaukee as well. So we just became like family, even until like I got to an age where I didn't need a babysitter. Like 17 years old, 16, 17 years old. It was just always, can I go, to their house? And I called and really, come on over, and I just hang out with them. Especially when my brother, my sibling, he went to college, then it was just me. So I spent a lot of time with them and still traveled. Took us to Florida, Walt Disney World. I went to both twice. I think he only went once, Walt Disney World and Walt Disneyland. Back then it was a big deal. I don't know if it's a big deal anymore like it used to be back then. This was in the 80s and whatnot, but did a lot of traveling, hung out with them, with their friends, everything. Okay. So anyway, I don't know how I got on that. I don't remember where I was going, but I'll get back to it, I'm sure. So I was curious. I said, who are these Mexican cartel people? Why did she choose this particular community? So I'm looking up the word cartel now to see exactly what it means. I'm just seeing like a written agreement between belligerent nations, a combination of independent commercial or industrial enterprises that designed to limit competition or fix prices, a combination of political groups or common action. Okay. So, oh yeah, I was saying that was the only time I've ever been to Mexico. Like I was like 11 or 12, something like that. Okay, for not long. So anyway, so I said, why did she pick this? This particular one. So I googled how many cartels are there? How many Mexican cartels are there? And the answer was like, well, it can't be. Really said, let me go in and put it in and see what we get. Okay, how many Mexican cartels? There's no definitive, universally agreed upon number of Mexican cartels. The situation is constantly evolving with groups merging, fragmenting, and changing names. However, the Drug Enforcement Administration, or the DEA, identifies three major cartels as being the most influential in Mexico: Sinaloa, Jalisco, capital CJNG, and Gulf Northeastern Zetas, according to Wikipedia. Some sources also include groups like Los Rojos, Los Viagras, and United Cartels, according to Wikipedia. Okay. Now, when I clicked on this and looked at it, I saw this is where I saw. I'm not seeing it right here right now because I think I put in something else, like who they were, something like that. But I think the Zetas part, I saw the word Los Zetas, and I said, oh, this is what she's talking about. I thought it was Los Sados. I thought that's what she was saying. LOSADO. Is what I thought she was saying. Okay. More detailed breakdown. Major cartels. The DEA focus. Now, this is interesting. I want you all to hear something. I want you to hear this. It says, however, the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA. Now, what is the DEA, Drug Enforcement? Well, let me go back here. Let me. Okay. The Drug Enforcement Administration is a United States federal law enforcement agency that focuses on combating illegal drug trafficking and distribution within the country. It is the primary agency responsible for enforcing the Controlled Substances Act within the U.S., working alongside other agencies like the FBI and U.S. Customs and Border Protection. The DEA also coordinates and conducts drug investigations both domestically and internationally. Now, these things that I'm reading here is right here on Google. This is nothing that's secretive. This is nothing that only for a select few of people. This is not. It's just public information, and the public should know about it. Okay, what all of these government agencies, so on and so forth. There's nothing hidden. There's nothing secretive. There's nothing. It just is what it is. Okay. All right. Now let's go back. Okay. So when I like I said, I Google how many are there because I'm like, why did she pick that particular community to say that? Once again, the DEA identifies three major cartels. It's always interesting, these numbers. Three. Like I'm seeing here, I got three thumbs up. Okay. Three. Pay attention to numbers. I'm hearing synchronicities, of course. Three, six. I was listening to a Jordan Maxwell the other day, and he mentioned something that happened in his lifetime. And he was saying how he was approached. He's been doing his talks. I can't remember what year he said it was or how young he was or whatever. How he was approached by someone. Now this is public. I'm only repeating what he said. There's a video on here. How he was approached by someone who said to him, you know, that at one point in your life, there's going to be a group that's going to come. There's going to be some men, that very powerful people, that are going to approach you and uh, tell you that you can talk about what you want to talk about, except for what you're talking about. Okay, and they're going to do A, B, C, D, and D, E, F, and G, and they're going to give you time to think about it. And he said, it doesn't matter. They're going to tell you. He said that the man said to him, it doesn't matter um, how long you take to tell them. You can tell them that you give you what did he say? 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, 666. Okay, he clearly stated it. So this whole thing with numbers, okay, in this whole matrix system, this whole uh, all of that shit, okay. So then I was listening to another one of his talks yesterday, and he was talking about religion, and he was talking about the three major religions that come from Hinduism. Okay, loved it how he was breaking it down. And what are those three major religions? The three major religions of the West. They say they're of the West, but of course they didn't start here in the West. Okay, according to the history, those three major religions being Judaism, Christianity, Islam. But three major. Listen to numbers. Listen, like they say, when people tell you, you hear readers talk about, but they usually talk about your personal life. But it does involve your personal life. Pay attention to the signs and the synchronicities. Okay, so here we have again, who acknowledges or identifies three major cartels, three major religions. Are there more than three religions? Of course they are. These are the three major religions. They're not, okay, we say, I said of the West, okay, meaning of Western culture, Western civilization. I talked about culture and civilization, how they tie in together already. Okay, how it's one and the same. But still, three, okay? So really, they are the three major religions of the world. This is really what they're saying to you. Because when they talk about of the West, they're not talking about a geographical location. They're talking about a culture, okay? And Western culture has what? Permeated and dominated pretty much. Okay, the world. We talk about what's that? They always talking about the new world order and all of that. That's been done. That's not a common. That has taken place already. Understand? Okay. Um, that has already taken place. So we have your three major religions. So pay attention to these numbers. These are the three major, okay, cartels. Um, that who identifies them? The Drug Enforcement Administration. Okay. I read it of the United. Is that what it said? Ain't that what it said? Who is the Enforcement Administration? DEA, United States. Okay, federal law enforcement agency. This is part of the United States government. They're the ones that are identifying. Why are they identifying? Why are they? Because this is the, I guess you could say maybe the head or whatever. This is when you get into, well, kind of maybe like prophetic word revelation. Okay, I kind of want to do a talk on that, but there's so many. I really have now that I really have to do some research, not just you know beyond uh, Christian talk. Okay, all right. Anyway, now these are who, once again, Zetas, the Los Zetas, as a part of it. We got Sinaloa, Jalisco, okay, which I'm not familiar with any of these, okay. Gulf slash Northeastern slash Zetas or Los Zetas, okay, according to Wikipedia. All right, Sinaloa, Jalisco, and Gulf Northeastern Los Zetas. Okay. So I said, I looked up. I said, well, let me find out more about this community. Who are they? Okay. Why did she say that? Now, Los Zetas, pronounced, now I'm going to read, okay? You may not want to stay, but I'm going to read. Okay, Spanish for the Z's. Okay, Los Zetas, pronounced Los Zetas. Spanish for the Z's what was, okay? Pay attention. My people perish for lack of knowledge. People can say and do anything without any knowledge, without any understanding. All right. Now, it's so interesting how I have a notification coming up now that was made for today that I put on my calendar for, it's like 6:35. It's just not showing up. Okay. But let's continue on. Okay. Was a Mexican criminal syndicate and designated terrorist organization known as one of the most dangerous of Mexico's drug cartels. They are known for engaging in brutally violent shock and awe tactics such as beheadings, torture, and indiscriminate murder, which is interesting because didn't she say something about Chapo wanted to cut her head off or something? I really didn't listen in full, okay? But anyway, let's continue on. While primarily concerned with drug trafficking, the organization also ran profitable sex and gun rackets. Now, again, I'm just reading something that's right on Google. This is, I didn't find no secret book, nothing like that. It's just right here on Google. Okay? Anybody can read it. Los Zetas are also operated through protection rackets, assassinations, extortion, kidnappings, and other illegal activities. The organization was based in Nuevo Laredo, Tamaulipas. I don't know if I'm saying it right. I'm probably not, but directly across the border from Laredo, Texas. The origins of Los Zetos date back to the late 1990s when commandos of the Mexican army deserted their ranks and began working as the enforcement arm of the Gulf Cartel. In February 2010, Los Zetos broke away and formed their own criminal organization, rivaling the Gulf Cartel. This was in February 2010. Okay, it says who it was founded by. Okay, y'all know how Wikipedia works. Founding location, which I just read, that I couldn't pronounce, Tamaulipas. Okay, years active, 1997 to present. Territory, Mexico. Rest of North America, United States, Guatemala, El Salvador, South America, Europe. Ethnicity, multi-ethnic, but mainly Mexico and Latino. Membership, 20,000 and 50,000. You have your leaders here, Maxili, Barahona, and Nadales. Criminal activities, we just read that. Allies, we just read that. And they have their rivals. Okay. They were at one point Mexico's largest and most expansive drug cartel in terms of geographical presence, overtaking their rivals, the Sinaloa cartel, in physical territory. However, since the mid late 2010, so about 2015, late to the late, maybe till 2019, 20, something like that, Los Zetos has become fragmented and seen its influence diminish, with most fractions absorbed by their regional opposition or eliminated. As of March 2016, Grupo Bravo, or Bravo Group, it says in parentheses, Los Talibanes, or the Taliban bands, okay? I don't know if this same thing is what they be talking about on the news and all of that kind of thing, okay? And Zetas Vieja Escuela, old school Zetas, have formed an alliance with the Gulf Cartel against Cartel del Noreste, Cartel of the Northeast. Another splinter group was formed, also named Sangre Nueva Zeta, Nubla Zeta, aligning themselves with the Jalisco Cartel as an armed wing. In March 2019, Texas Republican Congressman Chip Roy introduced a bill that would list the Cartel del Noreste faction of Los Zetas, Jalisco New Generation Cartel, and Gulf Cartel as foreign terrorist organizations. United States President Donald Trump has also expressed interest in designating cartels as terrorist organizations. However, such plans was halted at the request of Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. Now, this, I'm not sure the date of this, when this was written. Okay, it says it was last edited 19 hours ago by Green Sea Bot. Okay, so electronically. Then it goes into the history, the state corruption, where it was organized, organizational structure and training, law enforcement raids, anonymous operation cartel, influence outside of Mexico. Okay, um, which I really didn't read that. Okay, but also in pop culture, but I did read that. In the 2011 short Keep Your Enemies Closer, the head of the Los Zetas is a dangerous drug lord named Jimmy the King Aguilar, played by Manny Perez. In the 2010 film Predators, one of the main characters, Cuchillo, played by Danny Trejo, is a ruthless and infamous enforcer for the Los Zetas. Los Zetas are the main focus of the Gangland Season 3 episode to Torture or To Kill. It says 3 times 11. I don't know what that means. Okay. In this episode, in addition to showing the brutal crimes committed by Los Zetas, the episode is focused on a notorious member of the cartel, Rosalio Bart Reda, a notorious sicario from Los Zetas known for becoming a Los Zetas sicario in his teens. The Netflix Univision television series El Chapo depicts Los Emis as a semi-fictionalized version of Los Zetas that maintains an alliance with the Gulf Cartel and eventually wages a bloody gun battle with the Sinaloa Cartel for control of Nuevo Laredo. Okay. Um, Let me see. I'll just read this. I didn't read this. Criminal Group Summary. Los Zetas pose a great humanitarian risk to the regional communities and to those in which its activities extend, including several countries in Central America and across the largest cities in the United States. Since the group has committed torture, executions, and mass murder, it is seemingly identified as a terrorist organization. Despite this, Los Zetas is characterized as an organized criminal group because it has an expansive membership, has existed over a period of time, and commits serious crimes for the purpose of financial gain. Los Zetos' original 31 members were soldiers in Mexico's most elite special forces unit, the Grupos Aeromovies de Fuerzas. I'm sorry, y'all. Especials, okay? I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it. Since the group's inception as a trafficking organization, it has recruited soldiers from the Mexican military that train cartel members and lead operations. The cartel's success is attributed to their military professionalism and extreme use of violence. At the height of the Los Zetas operation, it was the largest cartel in terms of territorial control. It was able to gain and maintain its territory across Mexico because of the organization's hierarchical structure. This reflects organized crime's theoretical perspective of the bureaucracy model. Los Zetos divides its roles and responsibilities along strategic, operational, and tactical lines, which allow them to effectively combat rival cartels and engage in illicit activities. Although Los Zetos does not have control over Mexico's political institutions, it has breached Mexico's law enforcement institutions. The cartel has corrupted hundreds of local and state security officials by offering them bribes and threatening them with death. As a result, Los Zetos has been able to freely engage in illicit activities without being impeded by police in those areas. In the last decade, however, Mexico has received money from the United States to better resource their military. Since then, the government has made great steps to destabilize and fragment the Los Zetas. Okay. Now, I looked. What did I looked. Where in the United States did the Los Zetos cartel have members? The Los Zetos cartel, while primarily based in Mexico, has a presence in the United States, particularly in areas bordering Mexico and along drug trafficking routes. Specifically, the cartel has been identified as operating in Texas, with arrests and investigations taking place in cities like San Antonio and within the eastern and western districts of Texas. Their influence is especially notable near border crossings such as Laredo/Nuevo Laredo, which are key points for drug smuggling. Beyond the immediate border region, Los Zetos has expanded its operations to other parts of the U.S. Reports indicate that they have established wholesale distribution points in various cities, reaching as far north as Chicago and east to Atlanta. They also have ties to street gangs in different states, including in Bold, California, and South Carolina. This is where you're from. This is where Breonna Joe Bellamy is from. South Carolina. They have ties to street gangs in South Carolina, who assist in moving drugs and enforcing their operations. Additionally, one former high-ranking member, Jose Maria Guizar Valencia, who recently pleaded guilty to importing tons of cocaine, is identified as being from Tulare, California. I don't know. It's important to remember that, when I say I don't know if I pronounced it right. It's important to remember that the Los Zetos cartel has undergone changes and fragmentation in recent years. While their presence in the U.S. is undeniable, the extent of their operations and the exact locations of their members can be fluid and subject to ongoing law enforcement and actions. Okay, that's understood. I have lived in Cleveland, D.C., New York City, Memphis, Tennessee, kind of Newark, New Jersey. I was based in Newark, New Jersey as a flight attendant, and Atlanta when I was a student. I never lived on the border, these places, never lived in California, and not from South Carolina. But Bree is from South Carolina. As well, she also stated in some of her posts that she wanted to put a bullet in my head and spit in my face. And she also stated in one of her posts, how come, referring to me, because she had my name in the post, how come, and I showed this to the police officer, he took pictures of it, how come you all haven't killed her yet? So I'm thinking that this is this switcheroo type thing. So I'm thinking that maybe she has some ties to this organization in some way, shape, or form. Because she emphasized when she talked about the men here who own the gyms that they weren't on drugs, which I don't know what that would have had anything to do with. But also, it sounds like you got this from a television show, Gangland. I remember that. I used to watch that. And they were a main focus in season 3. And also this Netflix television show called El Chapo, something about, you keep talking about Chapo or something or other. So I don't know, I'm not saying allegedly or anything like that. It sounds like you've twisted things around. I wonder, are you a part of this? And maybe, I don't know, because there's often a switching around that you like to do, that she likes to do. If with their ties to South Carolina, which you are where you're from, and living there, and so on and so forth. And, really, I think you got it from the TV show. But if not, possibly you didn't. Some of these things here, these organizations and whatnot, I think we know there have been enough research done and things put, on the internet for people to see that a lot of these organizations, and I'm not saying this one, I've never heard of this, I don't know anything about this, are government created by the government, funded by the government to do, and placed in certain communities, and not just in the United States, throughout the world, basically to terrorize people for the purposes of control, to keep people in a controlled state of mind, in a state of fear. Okay? And sometimes the things, they don't even exist. They just exist on paper alone, or on, what do you call it? TV, documentaries, biographies. But these things, you know, don't exist. Confirmation. Okay. I'll give you an example. Um, Historically, we have been told that the Israelites, when we look in Judaism, okay, were enslaved by the Egyptians. However, there is no account anywhere in the history of Egypt. There's no account, and I've gone over this before, but I'll go over it again when I get to that. I'm looking over it because my textbook is over there. And even when I went to Egypt, this was something that was discussed. They said people often ask, but there's no account anywhere in the whole country of Egypt, anywhere. There's no account of a group of enslaved people. And as a matter of fact, when we go over historically, this group that when we study Judeo Christianity, this group, this quote unquote nation was not a nation. Like we think of nation, we think, a lot of people, thousands of people. No, it's just like small group of people. They refer to it as a small band, BAND, of people. It was not a major anything big like that. Okay. There's also some, because they even want to teach that they built the pyramid. Was there when you go to Egypt and you do the tours, there is proof of it being more like not slaves building it, people, you know, how it was done. I don't know. Okay, but people, even like kind of like in a sense requesting time off or having time off for the day, you know, workers. Okay, they have that proof when you go there and you do the tours. Okay, but there's absolutely no proof. It's a belief, yet and still, and a belief from what a written book, a word. Okay, this book that I'm calling the manual here. It's the same thing. Some of these things, these groups, these organizations, and whatnot. That saying kind of like all the world is a stage, or what you will find here with readers and other spiritualists saying for entertainment purposes only. Okay, and they do that for legal purposes, of course. Okay, but it truly is, in many instances, for entertainment purposes only. Okay, not to be absorbed as this is real life. I'm going to take it to be something that is actual and factual. I am not saying that about this organization. I have no clue. I've never heard of it before until just recently. Okay, does it matter if they was on gangland and all that kind of stuff? We even know now with the advent of the internet, thank God, about crisis actors, where we have these things, all of this terroristic type of things happening in the world before us, and yet you have all of these crisis actors. You see them from one uh, horrific terroristic act to the next. Okay, they've shown you this is the same person. You understand what I'm saying? Different locations in the United States, or being people being what's the word, called on to, we're hiring crisis actors for this, that, or whatever the case may be. So a lot of these things, okay, like we would talk about the Blood and the Crips. Hey, this is the research that these things were government created by the government funded. Okay, once again placed in certain communities to elicit fear, elicit terror. For again, we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but powers and principalities and rulers. Okay, this is part of this matrix system. It's quite unfortunate that someone would watch those things and decide to absorb them as their particular life and then accuse someone of getting money from them to do something harmful to them. Which, me personally, I've already talked about. I don't have to go into all that. Okay, I know nothing about these people. I looked it up and I was like, well, this is some government funded shit. It's very obvious. If it's on Wikipedia, you got all of that information. This is some government funded, created, and funded stuff. Okay, like most of the shit that is thrown in our faces through media, you know, newspaper. I remember years ago there was a news reporter. I think he wrote for the New York Times, and it was a story was came out and it was leaked that the story it wasn't even true. It never happened. And they came out. Some of the, if I remember correctly, some of the reporters came out saying that a lot of the stories that we put in the news are not true stories. They're not real stories. These things never happened. Okay. This is not something I'm just saying. This is something that came up. This was about over 20 years ago. My daughter will be 20. She was not born. So maybe about 21, 22 years ago. Them saying that it's a lot of stories that are in the news, the actual reporters that are in the news, on the news, so on and so forth. They're not real stories. These stories are made up. Okay, so understand that there are a lot of things that are being done to elicit fear and torture and torment and so on and so forth and the like. You quote unquote documented things. Okay. Some of it may be real, okay, but not all of it. Okay, have an understanding. Okay, all right. But if it is real, maybe that was what actually happened, and I don't know, maybe there's some kind of trouble that this young woman is in, and she's trying to pin it on me. Okay, because that's where they apparently, according at least to this article, that's where they are in the state that she was in before she came here. Right. But anyway, that's all for right now. I'll come back with something else, some other things a little bit later on, maybe later today, maybe in a few minutes. We'll see. And you all have favor. Peace.